Well, you only fail when you stop. That my advice would be to assume whatever you're doing is going to work. That would be it. Because if you don't assume it's not going to work, you're not going to try it. You're going to try and speak to people that you think are just business centric. I think it's more personal. I think you should actually like the person. So that's the most powerful form of that's the holy grail of having a strong network, is having true friendships with others that actually make you stronger in business. I don't think networking should be transactional. It should be relationship based. It should be genuine. I was not good with rules. I wasn't good with school. Business lends itself well to me and gives me like an outlet, let out a lot of energy.
Welcome to Moonshot. What if business networking wasn't just transactional, but actually felt like a community? A place where trust, connection, and ambition come first. That's exactly what today's guest set out to build. Joining us is Daniel Hakim, founder and CEO of CUB, the Club of United Business, one of Australia's fastest growing business communities. Daniel launched CUB at just 23 years old after returning from Europe and realising there was nowhere in Australia where ambitious business owners could truly belong. What started as a bold idea has grown into a national movement with thousands of members and exclusive clubhouses across the country. Most recently, Daniel launched BOA, a social media platform built exclusively for business owners, backed by some of Australia's most respected business leaders, including Mark Burris, Gavin Rubinstein, and Jeremy Sobral. In this episode, we explore how Daniel turned a gap in the market into a thriving ecosystem, what he's learned about leadership and discipline, and valuable learnings you can apply to your own journey. If you haven't already, hit subscribe so you never miss an episode of Moonshot. Your support means the world. I'm your host, Tatjana Pandurevic. Let's dive in. Daniel, thank you so much for joining the Moonshot podcast. I've been looking forward to this conversation for a while and can't wait to get into all the things that you've built and created that are so unique with both CUB and the BOA app.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I want to first get started by taking a step back and going back to your childhood. What are some of the earliest experiences or people that have most shaped who you are today?
Oh, so for me, it's just all about my family. I like to think I'm a combination of my parents. Both my parents migrated to Australia. My mum from Mexico and my dad from Lebanon when they were kids. And my dad worked very, very hard and was very successful in business. And so business was always in my life and what the path that I expected to go down, the path that I wanted to go down. And, I learned a lot from him, and I observed him and watched, I watched that mindset. So I like to think I get that ambition and the love of business from him, and then from my mum, all the positive things in life, like family and love and trust and respect and community and all those things. And that's very much what I try to bring to my businesses. Both, the two businesses you mentioned are both community-based businesses, and I think if you can build a community like a family with, if you can build a community that has respect and all the positive values that you'd want to see in your family, the community will sustain longer and grow bigger and also naturally weed out the bad people and the bad things, which there are in the world. So I like to think that it's a combination of both my parents and that I have brought both learnings and examples into my businesses.
Well, community is such a central theme in both of your businesses. Did you know from a young age that you wanted to own your own business and this is the path that you wanted to go down?
Yeah. My whole life. Maybe when I was 8, I wanted to be a vet. And at one point I wanted to be an actor or maybe a soccer player, but I would have been real young from the age of, maybe 13 or 12 or something like that. I knew I was going to be in business.
It's really interesting to learn that, and you can tell you're immediately so passionate about it and you've got a lot of conviction, because a lot of people also fall into having their own business as well, but you can obviously tell you were like, no, this is what I want to do.
Yeah. I speak to business owners all day as a job. So, a lot of business owners don't know that that's not their path. They fall into it, or it accidentally happens, or they follow a passion and that's where they land. And there's also people like myself who just, there was never another option. I was not good with rules. I wasn't good with school. Business lends itself well to me and gives me like an outlet to uh, let out a lot of energy.
And you started quite young with something that's really unique, which is CUB, and I'd love to get into that. So the Club of United Business. I believe you were 23 after you came back from a trip in Europe and had an idea to create a business family. Talk me through the idea behind CUB and why you felt like this was a really good idea at the time.
Well, I came back from living overseas, so I did a lot of my high school and a little bit of uni in Europe, mostly in Paris and a bit in London. And so when I came back, I was looking for like a members club or a community to be part of, to meet other business owners. I wasn't a business owner at that time, but that's the type of people I wanted to meet. And overseas, there's lots of like members clubs. They're a thing. And when I looked up in Australia, members clubs to be part of, or business communities, there was really the old stuffy kind of men's only clubs, which have been there a long time, or there were things like co-working spaces, or like one-off events like meetups and things like that, and or even BNI, which is, they're all great. BNI is a great organization. It's just not what I was looking for. I wasn't saying nicer and more premium and more relationship focused. And in the case of the members clubs, not stuffy men's only type, not the old school ones. And so I just thought, well, if I want that, I'm sure there's other people that want that. And so the idea with CUB was, you're right, we did call it a business family. What we meant by that was that, when you start a business or running a successful business, you've got your family, and you often don't want to bring work home to them and stress them out, or even just bring it home. You want to separate the two. You've got your friends, but often your friends might not be in the same situation as yourself, and so you don't want to sound like a dickhead when you're talking about your business and things like that. And so business family really means like your third community. It's your business community. It's the people you can talk to, get support from, and relate to in terms of your business. And so that was the idea for CUB. And that's what it became. The only difference was, at the time I was 23, so I wanted it, like, the idea was that it was for young entrepreneurs. But I wanted it to be premium because that's what I liked, and it was also what I was used to from overseas and things like that. And the people that did want premium, particularly at that time, were not so much the young entrepreneurs. They were still younger than the traditional members clubs, but they were more established in business. They were more successful businesses. The really early stage businesses were connecting at that time through like free means, like the co-working spaces, and there were like think tanks and incubators and things that were like really popular at the time. So the really young new businesses were connecting that way. The biggest businesses, they didn't need a network. They already have a network. Everyone wants to meet them, in fact. So they didn't have any needs. It was the businesses that had, like the business owners, sorry, that had achieved a level of success that most others haven't. But they were nowhere near kind of reaching their goals yet. So they were still on the journey. And they wanted to connect with others on the same path. So CUB very much developed into serving that market.
I was really curious to understand that, because I've read that you launched with premium pricing, so a 10K annual fee and a 1 million revenue minimum turnover for businesses eligible to join. Is that correct?
Yeah, no. So no. At the start, we didn't have any. At the start, it was the first price. CUB's price is the first price for CUB was $300 a month. That very quickly changed, maybe like 2 weeks.
Why is that?
It was just too easy to sell.
Oh, you felt from the outset the demand was super high for
Well, it was
$300.
$300 a month, like, and I wasn't bad at selling, so I was too easy to sell. I knew I was losing money because I could get people at a higher price. So it became $600 a month. And then that was still too easy, so it became $800 a month. And then by that point in time, it had been maybe long enough, like maybe it had been like a year in operation, where then you started realizing, oh, people are saying things like, oh, I'm on holidays for 3 months. Can I pause? And I didn't use it last month because I don't know, was doing whatever. And then it became like a accounting, like a finance issue because like you had to pause and it was just logistically harder. And so I was like, oh, I'm not doing any of that. It's upfront from now on. So then we gave people the option to do $800 a month or $7,000 upfront. And then eventually we just dropped the $800 a month, and then that $7,000 became $10,000. It's $9,900. And next year it will be 11,000 plus GST for any new members. So we don't put up the price for the existing members. So the earlier someone joins CUB, the better for them.
They retain the price, or does
They keep that price. Well, I've never put up the price on anyone because we don't need to, and I'm grateful.
and
They
with that
support us.
pricing model, did you find that it changed that the type of members that stayed on and sustained their memberships
There's
were
pros and cons. It became more premium.
Yeah.
So the people that were joining were more established businesses, and they liked that it was a higher price and upfront because it created a barrier to entry, which meant that their networking was a more premium experience with more established businesses. And I was happy with that. I really liked that myself too. So I kept that. That's not to say having a monthly or a lower price would be bad. It would just be different. And also, when you got a business, you got to work out how many clients, like what's my strategy? What's my model? CUB's model is CUB doesn't want everyone to be part of it. CUB wants it to be a premium community for established businesses, and it likes being the most premium networking experience. It wants that. It can't be ultra accessible because it would be counterproductive to the brand being premium. In the same way, like Cartier is not releasing $200
it's a different
jewelry or
market,
whatever.
different value.
Yeah, whereas BOA is different. BOA was created because we did get very good at networking and creating what we like to think is the best networking experience in Australia. But we didn't just love business owners with revenues over $1 million. We loved all the business owners, but we weren't able to serve them all because CUB was restrictive in that way, and others. Like most CUB's networking happens in the clubhouses at specific times.
Well, can you give an example? So anyone that's listening and is wondering, before we get into BOA, what does the networking experience look like within CUB? What is that model?
So basically, a member joins. They're assigned a membership manager. That membership manager inducts them into the club. So they basically teach them how everything works, plus completes like a networking profile with them to understand who they want to meet, why, their business, their stage, what they're working towards, things that they're going through at the moment. We then guarantee every member has the opportunity to build valuable relationships with a minimum of 30 other accomplished business owners per annum. And we do that through a networking system that we call CORE, which stands for KOR, stands for knowledge, opportunity, and relationships, or relatability, which are the 3 things that you should get from a strong network. And the way CORE works is members are placed 3 times a year into groups of roughly 10 other members that our team and our membership team have decided that would all be good for each other to meet based on specific reasons. And that core group meets 3 times over a 3-month period, each time with a specific purpose. And by the end of that season, all of those members have had the opportunity to build genuine relationships with the entire group. But normally what happens is there's like 2 people that they love, like, oh, wow, we're going to be good friends. And they carry that on. And by the end of a year, they've built, they've done 3 core seasons. They've built a significant number of relationships, and by the end of 3 years, you've built like a really powerful personal network for yourself. And by network, I mean just friendship circle of successful business owners. Because our philosophy is not around being transactional and networking in the more typical sense. our philosophy around networking is to be relationship based. So like our goal is we basically make business owners friends with other business owners for a living. Because if I like you and we're friends, I'll go out of my way to help you. You know, even if you haven't asked me and the opportunity comes up, I'll do it. So that's the most powerful form of like that. That's the holy grail of having a strong network, is having true friendships with others that actually make you stronger in business because they're also successful in business. And then in addition to that, CUB does a lot of other things. Like it's a big community, so we also have sub communities, so you can join like industry interests and like you can join a women's community, young members, golf
That's
club,
more
wine club.
specialized focus areas.
Yeah, if you want to connect with members that you have something in common with, we have our own custom built apps like social media. It's like a CUB boa that members can search the whole database, reach out to each other. We've got clubhouses in most major cities in Australia and partner clubs all across the globe for them to utilize for whatever they wish, normally for networking or entertaining clients. And the membership managers are like actively facilitating introductions between them and other members that they should meet on demand, or sometimes just because they think they should do it.
It's like the ultimate connection for anyone that's a business owner, looking basically, because there's so many themes and groups, it sounds like, to get a lot of value by being part of the group. It's heavily focused on networking. Now, networking often gets a really bad rap, and that's because
Sucks most of the time.
and it's awkward, and most people have attended plenty of networking events that just feel forced, and there's a lot of friction, and there's nothing natural about them, and people struggle to see where the value is. As someone who has effectively mastered a networking community, if you had to give advice on how do you get value out of networking events, what would you share to anyone listening specifically around what it makes to network well?
Well, I mean, there's a few things. One is, I think, having the right philosophy of what networking is. And our philosophy was relationship-based networking. So it can't be I'm networking to meet people that would specifically benefit me in business for my business. You know, because that's not you're not setting yourself up for success. You're going to try and speak to people that you think are just business centric. I think it's more personal. I think you should actually like the person, basically. So I don't think networking should be transactional. It should be relationship based. It should be genuine.
Yeah.
You know, that's kind of the best. I think that works best. So that's the first thing. Also, networking takes time. Like you can't just go to an event, meet someone, even if you like them personally, and think that's just going to
Change
become
your
a
life.
or become a valuable person within your life. You need to meet them several times. Like you don't build a friendship off one meeting. Like you have to actually get to know each other. You experience things together. You help each other. You have to build trust. You have to build a genuine relationship. So, if you meet someone that you think, oh wow, I really like this person. This should be. Yeah, I'd love to have them in my life for my business. Catching up for coffee, for breakfast, for lunch, going to each other's offices. Like, it's not dating, but yeah, it's like making a new friend. Like it just takes time. But once you have it, it's there. Once you have it, even if you haven't spoken to them in many months, they're still there because you have already that trust in that relationship. So I think, being relationship based, not transactional. It's a process over a period of time of many interactions, not just meeting once. And then also finding a way, like at the end of the day, to meet people, you have to put yourself in the right room with the right people.
Yeah.
So you need to figure out which one is the right room. And that depends on you as the person. Like a lot of people love BNI. That's the
What is
right.
that?
It's a very large global networking organization where they catch up once a week at 6 a.m. And they're forced to refer each other clients within their local group. And that works for a lot of people. So that might be your thing. It might be that you do like the more premium networking experience, and maybe CUB's your thing. It might be that you want a cost-effective networking for kind of the new generation of entrepreneurs. That's not transactional and forced. It's more organic and relationship based. In that case, BOA would be your the right room or the right platform. So it's really just about finding the networking that works for you, the style of community that works for you. It's also the type of community, like who you're meeting. At the end of the day, if you're in a community and you just hate everyone in it because they all suck, in terms of you, how you view it, then you're not going to like that community. Like you
And then it's not the right room for you. It kind of comes back to you have got to find the right people in the right room
Yeah.
for what you're looking to get out of networking as well. And you didn't explicitly say this, but it's also not a matter of just getting something out of somebody else. What I find from really good networks or forming good connections in general is they're usually mutually beneficial relationships as well. Um, and I guess that's kind of how you summarize a relationship base. They take time to build.
That's every relationship. Like
Right.
if your marriage is if only one person's benefiting from being in a marriage, it won't last long. It's the same with a business partner. Networking is the same thing. Like you also have to be an expert in your field and someone that they see is successful or going to potentially be successful because they want to invest in you, time in you. If I think, wow, you could be someone really successful one day because you're working really hard and I think you're really smart. Like you're more inclined to give that person your time because you respect them. It's not like a thing like, oh, I'm just doing it because when they get successful, then we're friends. Like that's not what you're doing. It's the same as I really like my partner because I can see how driven and hardworking they are. Like they're human traits that you like, and those traits may result in a great result for them, and therefore yourself. So it's a very natural thing. But I think one thing people need to always remember is that you need to be perceived as someone valuable to network effectively. And the more valuable you are, the easier it is for you to network and the better your networking becomes because not only does everyone want to meet you and spend time with you, it's a lot easier to get in the door, but they're more willing to do things for you because they want that relationship. So at the end of the day, focusing on yourself is probably the best thing you could do to grow your network, not on yourself, on your business. Like being successful in business is also one of the best things you could do to grow your network, which sounds weird because also the most important thing you should do to be successful is have a strong network. So it's
I guess it starts
kind of
with it.
twofold.
You said something earlier there though, which is it's important to be a high value person yourself. So ultimately, it actually really starts back with yourself and investing in yourself. And for everyone, that might be something different. Whether people don't necessarily start out having highly successful businesses, or doing whatever other venture, but they can invest in building the right skills. They can invest in connecting with the right people at every level. You can start to really invest in yourself and
You
the
can show the
qualities
right
you've got.
traits, like I was saying.
Exactly.
It's just like you can work
Attitude.
hard, be a
Yeah.
good human being, like nice to people,
Yeah.
work really hard, and just focus on your business every day. And in focusing on your business, also, like I said, be a good person. So in your interactions with people, make them always positive. Every positive interaction is the opportunity to win someone over. For example, when you reached out to me for this podcast, like I don't do many podcasts, to be honest. I don't really have much time to do any podcasts. We've got our own podcast, and that's what we do. But you're on BOA, and I would hate to say no to you because I'd rather be able to support in some way and be here to do the show because it's a positive. It's a positive. Like people will appreciate that, and it's a good way for myself and you to start a relationship. Now we know each other. You know what I mean? So like it's very easy to say no to things, but sometimes it's just better to say yes.
Yeah, to open up lots of different opportunities.
Yeah, just be a good person too. And you don't know, you might be helping someone out. Like, would you want someone to help you out if you needed help? Or if you wanted something, like you'd hope someone would do it to you. So I think if you do it for others, I think the world
The world has
comes
a
around.
funny way of coming back
Yeah.
to you as well. When you're thinking about networking or relationship building, connections, opening up new opportunities, what is the difference between in-person versus digital connectedness?
Well, in person is for building relationships. Digital is for maintaining them. Like you can very easily ask a question, send someone like happy birthday or just like hey, I hope you're well, whatever. Like you can do that digitally so you can maintain a relationship. In person is the only way you're building relationships. Genuine relationships, not like phony Instagram style relationships.
You don't think you can build relationships because the world's changing.
No,
We're
I don't
becoming
think
a
you
lot more
can.
digital. You think
Yeah, the world's
we are
changing,
staying?
technology's changing, but
Yeah.
human beings are not changing. We're still smart monkeys. And like we need to be with each other, and we need to have the opportunity um to see each other, like our body like non-verbal
Communication.
communication, and have the opportunity to overcome things together and build trust. I don't think anything's ever changing that.
No.
I mean, never say never, but
The
I don't
starkest
think
example for me was during COVID because everything just overnight went 100% virtual. And it was really evident, like that was a really strange time in general. But when we went back to being in person again and collaboration started building, I just remember thinking, wow, like that's when I realized how much was missing and exactly what was missing when we went into a pure digital experience. What was it like for your business during that time when the world went fully digital?
what was scary at first, because uh, I was more junior in business, but at that point, what I did discover is that once people were stuck in their houses, um, CUB became the only way that they were able to connect with other people, in a valuable way for their business. So a lot of CUB's largest growth happened in the COVID years. That was really when CUB, maybe 2019 was our first really like kind of successful year, or where I could say, okay, wow, this is like we got something.
Is that because it became so front and center as a way, as a
No,
channel to connect with others?
not just hired the right person at the time who was able to do things that I wasn't able to do, and they created like basically our networking system. So they created systems and operations that enabled us to kind of guarantee every single member a minimum experience and number of connections and introductions.
This was virtually, right? At that
No, this was
Oh,
in
you were still
person.
doing in person.
Yeah, 2019, and that person, because they created that, our retention went through the roof. We were able to get the community then much bigger. And then when COVID hit, we were still able to execute that exact same system, which we did, but we did it on Zoom, which sucked. It was nowhere near as good. But got to remember, the people that were joining at that time had no idea because they had never experienced the normal CUB. The existing members didn't like it as much, but it was the only option for them to kind of do business development, seek advice, connect with others going through the same thing. And so we had a really huge growth through that period. And then when it finished and we came back to person, like a lot of our membership base had never met our team in person, or seen our clubhouses, which is a big deal because our members and our team are all very, like, our team is the best part of our company and our community. And so once they realized, oh wow, okay, this is the real CUB, like they were like, okay, this is way better than what it was. But sometimes you got to just do what you have to do to make it work, and sometimes it's an advantage. It might even be a worse experience for your clients, but it might be the only one they're able to get. CUB's also counter-cyclical often. Like people, if times are tough, people want to network because they need, like, human beings evolved to be safer in numbers. So if times are tough, I'll join a club. I'll come with people. I'll get some help. I'll meet some clients, and that type of thing. So CUB does well typically in negative times. Where CUB might, and it does well in the very good times, but where it may not do well is, or not have the same level of growth, is on economic upswings, because people are growing, they're doing well, they haven't got time, they're trying to hire, they're busy basically. They're busy and they're not stressed. So, they're happy to take it on themselves.
So what phase are we in now if you take that?
Oh, this is a very bad phase. Yeah. Last year was the worst year I've ever seen Australian business. And believe me, I've got my finger on the pulse of Australia's business.
And why is that?
A lot of people started doing well through COVID, because the government put a lot of cash in the economy. So people were doing well, and so many people dropped their offices and fired people. Like, costs were low, their fixed costs were very low, and there was a lot of cash in the economy. So business owners started doing really well, and then what happened was, we came out of the lockdowns, and people started being like, oh, their confidence was high. So they, secured offices or bigger offices. They started recruiting and hiring more people. At that time, it was hard to recruit. Like, I don't know if you remember, but it still is. But unemployment was very low, and it was just very hard to hire people. So people were in high demand. So you were paying big money for staff as well.
Oh yeah, there was a
Um,
complete upturn just in
yeah,
terms of employee shortage. The pricing competitiveness went up in the
exactly.
entire market.
And employees wanted huge benefit. Like basically, I want more money than ever. I want to be able to work from wherever I want to work, do whatever I want to do. It was
Oh,
very hard for
the
business.
complete supply and demand had shifted. So
It was very hard for business owners, and so a lot of them stacked on their costs. And the government also said, the RBA also said that we're not going to put up the interest rates. So people bought properties, increased their cost, everything, and then all of a sudden they pumped the interest rates up, and people's revenues literally had a systematic halt or a significant cut. So their costs are higher, their revenues got cut, and then all of last year, many business owners were watching their bank accounts go down because because their costs were higher and their revenues were lower. Towards the end of the year, I found many had then readjusted their costs and rethink, but their revenue still hadn't gone up. So while they may not have been losing money, they weren't making very much. And moving into this year, there's been global economic uncertainty with the American administration changing their trade policies and things. There's also the fear of World War III, which is very real because there's wars breaking out in Asia, Europe, Middle East, like is pretty much everywhere.
yeah, a lot of conflicts in the world.
So you've got that, and then we also had our election as well. So like the start of this year has also been very tumultuous for business owners
From an economic standpoint.
from every standpoint, because if there's no stability, you don't know what to do. It was kind of like in COVID. If they locked us down, it was fine as long as we knew we were staying locked down. If they let us out, we were fine as long as we knew. But when they kept switching, like when things change, it's like trying to play soccer on a field that there keeps being earthquakes. So like, oh shit, I can't dribble there anymore. You can't for business to thrive. You need stability. You need like a stable playing field, and you also need to know the rules. Like there needs to be, like you can't play any sport without rules, and business is a sport. So that's why things like trade policies, whether they be right or wrong, it's irrelevant. It's just the fact that the rules were changing, and when the rules change, business has to stop because like, oh shit, I can't make a decision because I don't know what the rules are gonna
What
be.
will eventuate?
So the money stops, and then if my money stops, your money stops, and so all of a sudden all the money stopped, and that's like April was a very hard month for businesses because you had the US trade thing, you had the Australian election, you had the normal April stuff, which is Easter, Anzac, and school holidays. So they think there were 3 short weeks. Like, that was a very hard month for a lot of businesses. But the Australian election happened, is more stable. The US is actually doing some really, they're making some progress with trade deals and things like that. And
Yeah, and the tariff.
so, yeah, I think hopefully that gets, I don't think it's going to be stable, but I think hopefully it gets more stable. And so I am positive, though, for the rest of the year. So I don't want to sound negative. I'm just saying what I
But
say.
you do point out something really interesting that's happened in the last couple of years, which is the cycles of change have become shorter and shorter. And I would argue that with the advent of technology, particularly AI, they will continue to be shorter and shorter as we start to see more disruption. Does that change how you think about your own business as an owner and the way that you make decisions?
Well, I mean, potentially with stability, no, it doesn't. Because when there's changes in like things like technology and things, there are also opportunities. So, I would argue it's probably worse for the bigger companies because they may be less able to implement new innovations. The really big ones will gobble up the companies that create the innovations, and that's their strategy. But the small businesses, so like if you're an early stage business owner on Boa right now, for example, I think now's a great time to be in business. It's hard, like it's hard to get money right now, but that's always a good place to start. But there's a lot of innovations, and when you're a small business, constant change is a constant opportunity to find your loophole, like to find your. When you walk into big corporate buildings and they've got those, or hotels, they've got
The
those circled,
turnstiles?
the turn doors. Like it's like a lot of changes like that. It's like an opportunity to jump in to get into the 5-star hotel. You know what I mean? It's like you're waiting for your time to jump in, and I think that's a really positive thing. I also think most changes aren't real changes. People think they are, and they're like trends, but no one actually knows what to do or how to change it, or so it becomes more talk than it actually becomes a reality. Um,
Where do you think the biggest opportunities are?
Look, most people like would say AI, and I'm sure that would be your opinion, being an AI expert. But and of course there are a lot of opportunities in AI. But at the same time, there may be equal opportunity in the anti-AI, like in the more um in being how would I explain it? Like we were talking about it before, like AI creates a lot of can create a lot of distrust. Like, did they create it? Did they say it? Is that real? So I also think there's going to be a lot of opportunity in the in-person. Like I think my space is good, for example, communities. Like I think in-person community, physical communities.
Human connection.
Yeah, I think human connection is going to be a big play. It's going to become more and more important. At the same time, there's equal opportunity in leveraging AI to do things. And look, I don't know. I'm not an expert in all business. I'm an expert in my business, and in my business, I can see both a lot of benefits from AI in our ability to systemize how we can facilitate introductions between people rather than doing it and make it easier for people and automate it. And also, I can see at the same time a lot of opportunities with making sure that people are connecting in person and in their local community and in there. So I can see opportunities on both sides for my business.
For anyone listening, I'd love to get a little bit into BOA and what you've created with the BOA platform. If someone is listening for the first time, they've never heard about it, what is BOA and what are the opportunities that it provides?
Well, it's a digital networking platform for those that are born of ambition, which is what BOA is. So we believe when you start a business, you essentially become a new person, one that's born of ambition. And um, uh, and the most important thing you can do when you start a business or be in that early stage is surround yourself with others on that same path, people that can relate to your problems, help you solve them, have been there before. You need that tribe, and um, and the problem with you know early stage businesses is they often don't have $10,000 or big money to join, like kind of like
Yeah, or
CUBs.
premium,
Yeah,
the clubs like CUB.
and more cost effective networking typically sucks, which is why networking has a bad.
Rap in general.
Exactly. So the goal for BOA was to make high quality, premium, like enjoyable networking and advisory experiences accessible to every entrepreneur at every stage of the journey and in every location. And BOA achieves that through a combination of digital and in-person events that run every week. And to make it accessible in person wherever you are, on BOA, you can actually join your local networking chapter, and your chapter meets every month in your local area. So you have the opportunity every month to meet and connect and build genuine relationships with other business owners in your local community. In addition, to having access to the most successful entrepreneurs in the country every week through digital advisory sessions that happen every single week. Um, um, uh, Major like networking events in every major city every single month, and lots of other amazing activations. Like we have BOA is 65% women, so we have a lot of like women's communities on the platform. We do women's supper clubs, which are like probably the most successful event we do actually.
What's a women's supper club?
Well, normally 40 business women get together for a dinner. We book out an entire restaurant. There's a guest of honor who's the host, and they're often like a very successful and well-known entrepreneur. So like last week, there was one with Sally Obermeter from Swish. Before her was Amy Castano.
Oh yeah, I've had Amy on the show as well.
Yeah, we've had Raquel Burris. To be honest, we've had most of the really well known entrepreneurs, And they're just one of the many types of events you're going to find on the platform. And it's got really cool, unique features too. Like you can search for business owners in your like your location, in your area, and view the whole list of all the business owners in your area and send them coffee catch-up requests. So like an easy way to reach out and initiate a new relationship or one-on-one networking
That are
experience.
close to you as well,
Yeah.
in your own community.
Yeah, so you can catch up. You've probably got a coffee shop near you. Honestly, it's a really incredible platform. But the goal was to make the CUB experience of networking and our philosophy around networking, which is relationship-based, organic style networking, like networking you actually look forward to, was to make that accessible to every entrepreneur in the country. And also make the knowledge of our country's most accomplished business owners accessible to them as well. So they're often looking for mentors, or they're looking to ask questions to key people. They can do that on BOA. Like every single week, there is a digital advisory session where they can ask the person a direct question about their business, and it's incredible.
Well, just before we started recording, and I think it's worth mentioning, you also do some really fun events as well as part of the networking opportunities. Can you share some of those and some of the more interesting ones you've done lately?
Well, they're more like to get attention and to do marketing. BOA is a baby startup. BOA hasn't implemented a revenue strategy yet. It does like our premium launches next month, but so we have to be creative on how to get attention to get users. Partnering with the well-known influencers, and they're well-known entrepreneurs.
Who just have, because through their businesses they built big
Through their success, they have a
personal
following.
brands.
Is one way, but one way is doing really creative networking events. So, we brought all the well-known entrepreneurs in Sydney together for a networking event to connect with each other at Bondi Icebergs, which had got a huge amount of media. We did the BOA bus last month or a couple of months ago, which is we got a bus. We dressed it all up BOA, like it was a BOA bus, and we stacked it with super successful entrepreneurs who then drove around the Bondi and the eastern suburbs and picked up 2 loads of up and coming entrepreneurs, BOA users, and then did like an hour of mentoring with them on the bus, going through their business, asking questions directly.
Very different to a typical bus ride where people are just fully in their world.
Yeah, no, this was a loud bus. This is probably too loud. But like we've got one coming up where we're taking BOA users and our and very famous business people. We're taking them skydiving for like networking skydiving. So we're going to throw them out of a plane and see who knows their elevator pitch best. So like even the famous ones will have to pitch their, so while they're plummeting to earth, they're gonna have to pitch their business. But stuff like that's more like, it's great because BOA people love it. Like if they are one of the people that get selected to be part of it, it's so much fun. The famous business people love it because it's so unique, and also for them, they're giving back, so they feel great, and they're meeting other really successful business people in their position. So it's also good networking for them.
That are coming and growing as well within their own businesses.
Yeah. Well, they're meeting people on their level and people that are up and coming that they can mentor, and like that mentorship always feels good. So it's good, and then BOA gets a lot of attention, and so we get a lot more users. So it's good for everybody basically, and it's just a creative way to market cost effectively.
To make it really real, is there one incredible story of networking that came through either CUB or BOA that you could share with members that met through one of your communities?
Well, yeah, there's lots, but I'll tell you one only because it's kind of recently relevant to me. But I attended, so at the very start of CUB, maybe in the first year, maybe like 2015 or 2016, a guy named Tom West joined, who I became very good friends with. He owned an app development company. He still does. And then another person named Chris King joined maybe 6 months later. And Chris owns a company called Splend, which is it's one of the most successful startups in the country. They're the largest owner of electric vehicles in the country. So whenever you get in an Uber and you see the SPL number plate, Chris owns that car.
So
Splendid owns that
explain this
car.
to me, because I see SPL number plates
Yeah, that's
everywhere.
there's one of my best friends from CUB, and his name's Chris King. That's the company. So they basically rent the car to the Uber driver, and the Uber driver then has a nicer car, so Uber's happy because
Wow, I did not realize this was the story behind it. I saw SPL everywhere, and suddenly I was like, surely we did just manufacture all these
yeah.
SPL
Well,
number plates.
that's Chris. But so the company was much smaller when he first joined. Anyway, they met. So Tom West came to Chris King's welcome evening. They became very, very good friends, best friends. They then moved in together. They became roommates at the time. Tom then introduced Chris to a young woman named Sophie. Chris and Sophie started dating. Then Tom and Chris moved to London together to expand their businesses overseas, and they did. So Chris and Sophie's relationship kind of paused for a bit. Then Chris and Sophie got back together, and just 2 weeks ago, I was at their wedding, and they've had a baby. So Chris met his wife and had a son because of his networking with Tom. That's a very personal experience. But on a business level, they also helped each other expand their businesses overseas. They went to London together to do that. I mean, another one is also like Jane Liu was one of the very first CUB members. I became very good friends with Jane, and she was one of like the first 5.
From the Lazy CEO.
Yeah, Lazy
podcast CEO as well.
Just Sharon Shopo.
Yeah.
Me and Jane still are very good friends, and she's still a huge supporter of mine. She's helped me, on a lot of things. And now Boa helps Jane too, because we help run the Like-Minded Bitches Drinking Wine community through the platform. Like that community is run through Boa as their dedicated platform. It's a help to Boa, and it's also a help to them as well because we assist in it. So like I can't basically most of my success has happened because of relationships and connections. And there's the business side, but there's also the personal side. Like I met my wife through CUB as well. Like you just by putting yourself in these environments, you make best friends. You might, like Chris King, you might find a wife and a child and
a best mate
and a best friend, and and have people help you with your business. Me and Chris catch up. He lives like in Double Bay near me, and we catch up every couple of weeks, and we just talk about work and like it's just someone to relate to, and he always gives me ideas and vice versa, and talk about boards and all this shit. So I mean, there's so many. I couldn't even communicate all the stories that have happened.
But I think this is where the true value lies, when you start to talk about just all the different, like they're all the different stories and moments and relationships and businesses that come out from these connections. Looking ahead, what big visions do you have and ambitions to grow and continue building the businesses that you have through the communities that you built?
Well, our vision is to become the world's largest business networking organization for business owners. So that means being the chosen provider of networking to business owners wherever they are in the world at any stage that they are, which means we need industry leading, like the best product on the market, the best service on the market to serve you at every stage of your business journey in any country and wherever you are. So building out on that vision, we want to accomplish that in Australia first, which we've been very successful at thus far, but we still have more to do. And once we've done that, we want to take that kind of ecosystem, that networking ecosystem, that philosophy, that style of networking, and the different stages of the networking. We want to take that overseas and
conquer the rest of the world.
And we'll try to. But I think we'd be very successful. I have no doubt about it. It's a very unique business, and we're good at it. We have a very good team. Like we know how to do it. We have a very good technology. We'd have a lot of really unique points of difference and strengths strategically up against even big players internationally. So I'd be very excited to do that. But first things first. First, we've got to do it in Australia first. Accomplish the Australian vision, and then hopefully
about expanding.
And then we will expand globally. Yeah.
As we've come to the end of the show, I would love to ask you about advice that you would give. So, you've obviously been really successful with your own businesses, but you're also really connected to lots of other successful business owners. You hear of stories all the time. If you had to give a piece of advice to anyone that's in more of the early growth stage of having their own business or thinking about starting a business, what would that be? What does it take to be successful?
Well, you only fail when you stop. Like that's kind of the first thing. So, your business might not. That my advice would be to assume whatever you're doing is going to work. That would be it. Because if you don't assume it's not going to work, you're not going to try it. And starting is the most important part. Because once you start, you're stuck with it. But the good thing with that is it will only stop if you stop. So you might start a business and think this is what my business is going to be. Like I thought CUB was going to be like a young 20-year-old entrepreneurs group. That's not what it became, but it became what it became. It had the opportunity to do that because I started it. So, and if I didn't assume what I was doing would work, I would never have started it. So, first things, assume what you're doing is going to work. And then don't stop, just keep going. But don't be fixed to your idea. Bend your idea. You got to mold yourself and your business into what works for the market. And also, it's a commitment. Like I've been doing the same thing every single day for 10 years. The same thing. I wake up, I do the same. I focus on the same projects. Like I got a never-ending project. Yeah, and that's what business is. It's just this never-ending project. You wake up every day, you do the same thing. It sounds boring, but it's not because, different days have different challenges and you have wins, so it's exciting. But it's a long-term play. If you are still doing your business in 5 years, no matter where you started, it will be successful. If you get to 10 years, like you have to be successful. You wouldn't have made it 10 years without doing that. So assume it'll work. Don't stop and assume it'll work and be flexible and commit. Make it a 5-year commitment, like even just 5 years. And if you want to make it smaller for yourself, just make it a 3-year commitment to start. Because once you get to 3, it's unlikely you'll stop. You'll keep going, and eventually it will come. And it won't be. Some people have the stories where it kicks off really quickly, but it won't be a fast. It'll be slower than you expect. Yeah, most of the time, not always, but most of the time. So, you've got to slog it out for a good 5 years, 5 to 10 years. But at the end of that, you're going to be really happy with your life, and that just not everyone's willing to give it that 10 years.
And will ultimately be a different person as well, which is something you said very early on when we started recording.
You'll love yourself. If you go 10 years in business, trust me, you'll love yourself because you'll know the shit you went through to get there.
Who you are and who you've become.
Yeah, you'll know you'll be confident.
Daniel, thank you so much. So many insights. We'll share the links to both the businesses for anyone that's interested in finding out more and learning and connecting. But certainly for me, I've definitely shifted my views on networking and I really appreciate all the insights you've shared today.
Oh, I appreciate you having me. Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Moonshot. If you enjoyed the conversation, hit subscribe, leave a review and share it with someone who would find it valuable. See you next time for another inspiring story of ambition, resilience, and what's possible when you dare to dream big.